Why have 8% of UK landlords left high street estate agents and gone to OpenRent? Today I'm joined by Suzanne Smith, the author of The Independent Landlord, a blogger and YouTuber, lawyer and landlord. Thanks for joining me today, Suzanne. OpenRent have 16-17% of the market in the UK based on the portals. 51.2% of all the properties that they've put on the market in the last 2 years were previously on the market with high street agents, which, if you actually work it out, is around 8 or 9% of landlords have swapped from high street estate agents to self-management. Why is that? Talk to me.
Well, I'm one of those landlords. When I first started out as an accidental landlord in 2019, I used a big letting agent. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just went for the letting agent that had the most amount of boards in the area. They did a pretty good job. I was fine, satisfied with them. And then I ended up selling that property and I started buying properties near where I live in Kent. And I used another letting agent there. It was a letting agent that was attached to the estate agent I bought with. So they did a nice bit of cross-selling. And they were great for the first let. Then the personnel changed. And after that, they were useless. Absolutely useless.
What do you mean useless?
Okay, so one property I bought and I was in the process of doing a lot of work out the back because it was an unsafe wall, and I tried to micromanage it, and I did a sheet of A4 and I gave it to the letting agent and said, when you do the viewings, can you tell all of the applicants exactly what work I'm going to be doing? Did they do that? No, they didn't. It took 3 weeks to get the tenancy agreement, and I could never get through to them on the phone, and they didn't give me the information about the deposit. It took me a very long time, and actually in one of them, I went through the complaints procedure with them. They were just poor service, go for days and days without responding to me about different things. And when I did, so I did 2 lets with this new team of this big, the branch of a big nationwide firm. I won't mention who they are. And then the tenant said to me, well, they're awful. I'm really stressed because I don't have the tenancy agreement and I want to serve notice, but I don't want to do that until I've got the tenancy agreement. And I said, well, don't worry about it. We've shaken on it. It will be fine. And she said to me, why don't you use OpenRent? I said, I hadn't even heard of OpenRent. And then I looked at it and I thought, right, that's it. I am going to use OpenRent next time. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
But Suzanne, you're just a disgruntled landlord that's just had a bad piece of service. You can't obviously, that's not what every landlord is saying, is it? Or is it?
Well, I'm pragmatic. I just want to get the property let. I want to have a good service. And if I pay for a service, I want it to match what I'm paying. And this wasn't the case. And it's not a bed of roses using OpenRent because you have to do a lot of work yourself. But it's not just me who's saying this. I have a big Facebook group, a landlord-only Facebook group of about 2,500 landlords. And the biggest topic in there is people griping about their letting agents. Most of the time, it's not really, really bad, but it's just kind of low-level incompetence and frustration, and people get angry about it. And what they also get angry about is how they then look at their contract and find that they're locked in and they can't get out of the contract. And so if they want to make a fuss about it and go to the redress scheme, they will get out of the contract if they're a consumer landlord. But it's not easy. And I would say it's unusual for people to say something good about letting agents in my group.
Do you think that is, that we'll come back to the big topic. I just want to go down that rabbit hole of the unfair contracts. Do you think that would pass? Do you think it is unfair as part of the Unfair Contracts Act? Is it 77?
Yeah, it's been replaced. It's now the Consumer Rights Act.
Right.
I look at it from 2 points of view. First of all, if you're a business and you put a lot of money into the funnel, bringing people into your funnel, doing all your marketing and saying how many properties have sold in that area, etc., and what the rents are. And then you have landlords that are leaving at the bottom. The right thing to do is to wonder, why are they leaving? And to lean into that and to get customer feedback. It's not to try and put a cork in it, which will then explode by saying people can't leave. And so nobody from that letting agent sat me down and said, look, Suzanne, this hasn't gone very well. Can you please give us some feedback and say what's
Because what anecdotal evidence suggests that landlords don't say, I'm leaving you and I'm going to self-manage. They'll just come up with some BS excuse, go, because they can't deal with the hassle.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always self-managed, probably because I started out as an accidental landlord and I'd already, done everything to the flat that needed to be done. And so I didn't really want to pay for a glorified call centre. But when they called me back and said, oh, do you want me to do your rent review? Do you have any more properties? And I said, look, I'm doing it myself. And I actually said, oh, I've gone to OpenRent now. And they assumed it was cost. Now, their fees were high, but I went because it was actually less hassle on OpenRent, because I'm not having to keep calling them up and say, how did it go? What are the people, and you're always kind of one step away. And so even though being on OpenRent in some ways it is more work, for me, I found it less stressful than dealing with an incompetent agent.
Well, let's just nail this percentage, ladies and gentlemen, before we move on and talk about what agents should be doing. Is 51.2% of properties that have come on the market in the last 2 years on OpenRent were previously on the market with a high street agent.
And that, for me, it wasn't a money thing. It was a service thing. And I didn't feel that I was getting the service that I was paying for. And it was expensive. The all-in service for the last time I used a letting agent, the rent was something like 1,200. And I paid, and you're going to say I'm a mug, but I didn't know any better, 2,100, including the inventory, all the extras that they put in. And if I had been happy, I would have not set up by myself. I wouldn't have set up my Instagram account. I wouldn't have started telling people how to do it yourself. And I wouldn't have set up my blog. And I only did all of this. So all of this and this, whole job that I have now effectively of being a consultant in the PRS and having my blog and YouTube channel, that has all come out of me being cross that I was getting poor service and feeling that there wasn't information for landlords to help them be more demanding, know what their rights are, and also to try and help letting agents understand the perspective of landlords. I have a lot of letting agents who subscribe to my weekly newsletter, and I think it's important for letting agents, estate agents, everybody to lean into feedback, to try and understand why things are going wrong, to ask, and to do so in a nice way. Maybe get somebody from another office. You can even do a customer satisfaction survey after people have finished, but not one that's going to go on the website. And people don't like giving feedback in writing, but just to have a call, someone have a chat to say, how's it gone? How can we do better? What did we do well and what didn't we do well? If there's one thing you could change, what would that be? And then that will make the landlord feel really happy that they're
being listened to.
Yeah, and then landlords talk, and you might also get a landlord who decides that they want to self-manage, and then they do it and they realise it is quite a bit of a hassle. And if they've been treated well and fairly on the exit, they might come back again.
They might do, but if you're not giving them an open door,
exactly,
or making them not feel stupid by coming back,
yeah,
they're going to go elsewhere.
And if you make it difficult for them to leave, and you're unfair by saying you can't ever leave, like some of the reputable big agents in London have rent collection contracts you can't get out of while the tenant's there. And I mean, it just seems incredible to me. You can even get out of a mobile phone contract. Why not? Why shouldn't you be able to get out?
So the new Consumer Act. Do you think? As I said, I know we just touched on that a few minutes ago. Do you believe that there are some letting agents out there with unfair terms?
Yeah, Yes, there are.
that if they challenged, they would win.
Yes, and I know people in my Facebook group who've gone to the redress schemes and they've been released from their contracts, and letting agents have had to pay some damages because it's all about inequality of bargaining power and whether the terms are unfair. And so you have to be a consumer landlord, which means you can't own it through a limited company and you can't be a full-time landlord. And so if somebody has another job, if you have like an accountant or a solicitor who has 20 properties but they're a full-time accountant, they will still be a consumer landlord. But if you have somebody who only has their only income is from landlords, they might then be considered as not a consumer landlord. But the important thing is that, you know, the law is just trying to make people be fair and reasonable. And we shouldn't need the law, just like we shouldn't need the law to tell landlords to look after their property and to do repairs and to try and get to the bottom of damp and mould. The law is there because of inequality of bargaining positions. And I think what letting agents, estate agents should do is to act fairly. And it's the golden rule to treat people the way that you would want to be treated. And that is good for business and it's sustainable. And also, because I know that morale of staff is quite
Well, that's the
bad.
point I want to come across on.
Yeah, it's horrible for staff.
Would it surprise you that the average lettings manager, property manager, gets paid on average 50p per hour more than the national minimum wage?
Yeah, I know, and then a lot of the people starting out don't even earn the minimum wage with estate agents, and just as with conveyancing solicitors, it's like there's been a race to the bottom of fees, and people say you get what you paid for, but that's not always the case. I have a family friend who uses one of the big prestigious letting agents in London. She's paying 20% and all the extras as well, 20% for full management, and she's had 4 inspections in the last 8 years. And they, because I'm helping her, and they told me they didn't do one in 2019 because of COVID. And I said, COVID started in March 2020. She said, oh, no, it didn't. I said, it did. And yeah, so and I think sometimes letting agents get lazy. They have an elderly accidental landlord who's maybe inherited the property, been with them for 20 years, and they just don't give them the same they don't give them the prime service that they talk about. It's very subprime.
I mean, I can't disagree with you on this one. I would say that the issue with, managing your own property, there's a lot of plates that need spinning, but we don't often get that story across to our landlords, what exactly we do for our money. They just assume we whack it on Rightmove and wait for people to come to us. And that's not the case of being a letting agent, is it?
Well, I mean, I don't find self-managing that difficult. I kind of joke that I spend more time managing my Facebook group, deleting spam posts and chucking out people when they're ranting, than I do in actually managing my portfolio. I mean, I have stuff that comes up. And when I was on the train up here today, one of my tenants said, "Can they paint the walls pink for the daughters?" And I said yes, but just don't do the woodwork and put it back to white when you eventually leave. You know, stuff that comes in like that. Yesterday I got a text, and that was Sunday. Yesterday I got a text from one of my tenants saying the oven wasn't working, and so I messaged her back straight away, and I've arranged for somebody to go around and look at it. And stuff comes like that. But then other times nothing happens for a long time, but the repairs happen. And I've just had one chimney repointed. I've got another one to do, and then I've got some other work to do. But on those things, I wouldn't expect a letting agent to manage that, because I want to be the decision maker when it comes to what I spend on the property, and I'm probably more proactive and do things in advance
That's
of
what
the
I say,
average
but
landlord.
you're not a typical landlord,
No.
are you?
And what-
You're at one end of the extreme. Okay, what advice would you give to letting agents to ensure that they do retain their landlords? Because you're not telling me everyone comes on your blog is just moaning.
No. I think if you do a good service, you answer the phone, you do what you say you're going to do, you don't ghost them, you don't lie to them, and you just get things done. 2 inspections a year with a good report with photos, for instance.
I mean, I one of my daytime jobs is I help letting agents attract landlords to them and retain them. And one of the big things I find fascinating is no one actually sits down with their landlords and actually proactively manages their portfolio.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. And I put out a YouTube video this morning on a landlord guide to letting agents, which letting agents will find very useful. And in it, I say that the landlord should actually just kind of have like a relationship meeting with the letting agents once a year. They should go on an inspection once a year so they can have a look and think, oh, that's going to need doing next year. And we look at it differently because we own it rather than a letting agent that's more looking at to see what are the tenants doing.
Has the money come in?
Yeah, exactly. And I
Includes
think
in the title, property management,
yeah.
not rent management.
And I think there needs to be relationship management between the letting agent and the landlord. And the problem is that for a lot of them, the margins are so low, so there isn't really enough time.
So we should be charging more because we're not going to be able to get our renewal fees because of
Yeah.
the new renters' rights bill.
But to charge transparently. And as long as I'm getting value from it, then I don't mind.
So we have to give more, but also it's our job to also show more that what we exactly are doing.
Yeah, or to actually give what you say you're going to do.
Figures.
Yeah, because like this person who I know I talked about, you know, the subprime prime agent, they're supposed to do one inspection a year, and they've only been doing one every 2 years, and there are all sorts of excuses for it. But you know, it's not good enough, and a yearly inspection is not enough. You need to have one in the winter, one in the summer, and because a lot can happen in a year, and landlords should pay for that. Because if you're getting somebody to do something, you should pay for it. It's business, and not just go for somebody who charges 5%, because if they're charging 5%, then they're probably not doing a very good job, or there'll be a lot of other extras, which mean it isn't really 5%, it's really 15%.
Any final thoughts or any messages you want to give to letting agents to help them attract more landlords and make sure that they don't swap over to?
I think it's all about communicating value, and do this in a positive way, not in a negative way. I mean, I roll my eyes every time somebody calls me up and says, do you know how many regulations there are? You know, how
What's the
can you
number at the
manage it?
moment?
Well, it's no one really knows. I know Tessa Shepperson, when she did it, it was actually quite a low number. I think the NRLA says 170. But, you know, say there's 10 really big ones and acts of parliament that are important. And I say, yes, actually, I do know. I'm a solicitor, and I'm accredited landlord and things. But instead of going for the net, don't try and scare people. Just try and say, look, we can help you by doing this. Make it positive, and to have this transparent relationship, and be fair. And if people want to leave, let them go. And then they may, if you make that a good experience and you do a good service, they may tell all their landlord friends.
Thank you for your time today, Suzanne.
Thank you.